Good afternoon. From the KUOW newsroom, this is Seattle Now. I'm Zaki Hamid with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Monday, January 26th. We'll start with some local immigration news. Today, Governor Bob Ferguson held a press conference with the state's attorney general. They condemned the Saturday shooting of a nurse in Minneapolis by immigration agents and the president's crackdown in Minnesota.
We will not allow this administration to turn our nation into an authoritarian regime. That is not our America, and we will not allow this administration to change that.
Minutes earlier, he and the Attorney General sent a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem condemning an internal memo from Immigration and Customs Enforcement saying their officers could enter homes without judicial warrants. Here's Attorney General Nick Brown.
People have asked what we can do if ICE descends on Washington state, as they have in Minnesota. And I will not speculate on our strategy. I'm not going to hand our playbook to them.
Ferguson's also said he met with the head of Washington State's National Guard to discuss deployment scenarios. In Washington, D.C., several members of Washington's congressional delegation are reacting to the killing of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis with their vote. They say they won't support a key funding bill this week. The U.S. Senate is set to consider a bill that includes money for the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE and Customs and Border Protection. Democratic Senator Patty Murray says she'll oppose the bill and called the shooting this weekend murder. She called for DHS money to be split off from the larger package. Representative Emily Randall voted no on the funding measure in the House last week. Now she's urging the Senate to reject it as well.
No Democrat, no human should vote to fund Homeland Security, ICE, and Customs and Border Patrol in their rampant violence without accountability.
If the broader spending package fails, it would put the federal government on the verge of another shutdown, with much of the funding running out as soon as Friday. As communities across Washington continue recovering from last month's flooding, federal funding is on the way. The U.S. Department of Labor has awarded a new $1 million grant to the State Employment Security Department. State officials plan to use it to hire local workers for temporary disaster recovery projects. They also hope to get retraining and job placement help to people who lost work because of the storms. In health news, are you vaccinated for measles? With an outbreak of the disease in Snohomish County, public health officials in western Washington are calling on residents to get their measles vaccine. King County held a recent pop-up vaccine clinic near the Snohomish County line in response to the new cases. The measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine was available for adults and children at no cost. Deborah Berliner is with King County Public Health. She says if you're not sure you've been vaccinated for the measles, you have a few options.
If you are unable to get a hold of your records, you can either just get vaccinated again. There's absolutely no harm or risk associated with getting vaccinated, even if you think you've been vaccinated in the past. You can also do a blood test called a titer to check for your immunity status.
Berliner says adults who were born before 1957 do not need to get vaccinated because they are already considered immune to the measles. You can also look up your vaccination records from Washington State online at myirmobile.com. In the wake of Kroger closing a Fred Meyer store in Lake City last October, Washington lawmakers are introducing bills to help neighborhoods recover from losing a grocery store. Representative Daria Faravar says the closure was a major disruption.
Not only was it deeply disruptive to me, but has been devastating for my neighbors who have less means than I, less access to transportation than I.
One of the bills would help cities create so-called publicly owned groceries by alleviating some of the burden to set up shop.
If we make it possible for cities to purchase property, maybe even renovate it themselves, and then set it up so that a grocer can come in and lease that building from them.
Faravar says examples of publicly owned groceries already exist, like the commissaries on military bases. A public hearing is scheduled tomorrow for Farivar's bill in the House Committee on Local Government. In more health news, today we're remembering a global health advocate with deep ties to the Seattle area. Former CDC Director William Fagey died on Saturday at the age of 89. He was behind the ring vaccination strategy that helped eradicate smallpox worldwide by 1977. Before that, Fagey attended Pacific Lutheran University and went to medical school at the University of Washington. In 2012, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. We'll end the show with a few short pieces of news. The internationally famous snowboarding contest, the Mount Baker legendary banked slalom, has been canceled this year. Organizers tell the Seattle Times that recent weather caused an unworkable snowpack. Started in 1985, it's one of the longest-running snowboarding competitions in the world. The days are getting longer in the Seattle area. Today was the first post-5 p.m. sunset we've seen since November 1st. We'll soon be back to post-7 p.m. sunsets in early March. And finally, the Seahawks are heading to the Super Bowl for the first time in 11 years. After the Seahawks gloriously beat the Los Angeles Rams 31-27 last night, Seahawks coach Mike Macdonald told reporters the 12th man and the city's love for the team helped carry them to victory.
The power of 12 as one is real, just synergy, people buying in, doing it together. We're not we don't have a bunch of superstars and all that. We're just a really good football team that's tough and connected and doesn't blink and plays the whole game.
We'll hear more about the Seahawks Super Bowl run tomorrow morning on Seattle Now. Next time on Seattle Now, the Seahawks are headed back to the Super Bowl against a familiar foe, the New England Patriots.
I really think America's going to be rooting for Seattle. The Patriots have sort of been the evil empire for a long time, right? I think America sees the Patriots back in the Super Bowl and just says, this will not stand. This cannot happen again.
That's all for today from the KUOW newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and I'm Zaki Hamid. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. Be kind to each other, and go Hawks!